Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
And we're looking back at the first day's play from Hamilton in the third test between New Zealand and England, and also just a brief mention of Australia-India. Not much cricket there in Brisbane. But England today actually making the most of the day in a way, having been consigned to field first. I thought they did well actually to chip away at the New Zealand wickets, because actually it looked a pretty flat pitch. It was a nice day. New Zealand probably should be 300 for 5, and instead they're 315 for 9. What do you think?
I saw it slightly differently. I thought there was enough there in the pitch to keep the pace bowlers encouraged throughout the day. I thought there was enough bounce there during the day to keep them encouraged as well. I thought what a fascinating thing was that England only used 4 bowlers today, just the 4 pace bowlers. They were rotated throughout the day, so that clearly shows what Ben Stokes thought about the conditions. England putting New Zealand into bat and not really making the most of it, but I thought they were pretty unlucky in the morning. It was one of those mornings where, great credit to the 2 openers, Latham and Young. Fantastic credit to them for battling through, and no wicket being down at lunchtime. But you think it felt like on another day New Zealand could easily have been something like 80 for 4, 80 for 3, something like that. The ball was going past the outside edge. There was some encouragement for the bowlers. It wasn't impossible, not by any means. You could play your shots as well. But there was enough there. I actually thought it was a really good cricket wicket, and it made for an interesting and fluctuating first day.
Yeah, I mean, it just, as you say, there was a bit of extra bounce, but I felt that the pace of the pitch was quite consistent, and there wasn't a lot of seam movement. There wasn't really any swing, even though it was quite an overcast morning. I sort of felt that once they got to 100 for no wicket, and they'd started to get the measure of the conditions, really they should have kicked on and been in a strong position. But England's perseverance, only 4 bowlers used, no spinner, but they're sort of the way they just tirelessly kept at the Kiwis with a 4-pronged seam attack. Stokes bowling the most overs, interestingly, was impressive. And actually, but if you look at the New Zealand scorecard, 6 of the top 7 got into double figures, but only one, Tom Latham, got past 50. So that does give you a clue to the quality of the pitch. There were too many dismissals, and we can talk about them, just slightly lazy shots outside off stump, and smart catching by England's field that was sort of posted for exactly that sort of thing, saving runs but also looking to take catches. Perhaps the pitch at times just slowed a bit, off a length, but I think just credit to England for just keeping going, and Matthew Potts in particular getting a chance this time instead of Chris Wokes. And Stokes is a big fan of Potts. You'd understand why. He's a Durham teammate. He's just someone who never gives up. He just has this willingness to keep going and bowl those hard overs. And he got his reward, 3 wickets, largely through catches that were in the outfield, but still they count. They all count.
Yeah, it was a curious 3-4 in a way, because I mean he was beating the bat, and the England bowlers did beat the bat throughout the day. Not really regularly, but there was enough there, as I was saying. And of course, the first wicket he gets is a catch down the leg side, where he looks to glance it and nick through to Ollie Pope. There was a played on Kane Williamson, and we talk about Kane Williamson playing with soft hands. And I had a thought in my mind that you just wonder whether actually his soft hands there got him into trouble, because he played it so delicately that the ball went behind him and bounced onto the stumps. He tried to kick it away and missed it. And then there was one Phillips caught at backward point. New Zealand I agree that New Zealand got a bit casual in that middle phase when England packed that cover region, and New Zealand succumbed. They lost 3 wickets through backward point to extra cover at a crucial stage of the day's play. And New Zealand will feel that they've sort of wasted a great opportunity, because they did have a 100 stand for the first wicket, but England fought back. But then New Zealand revived themselves towards the end of the day's play. I mean, there was 79 runs in the last 10 overs as England went to leg theory, and it worked to some extent because they picked up a couple of wickets. But New Zealand got away a bit, and one of your favourite cricketers, or one of your favourite Kiwi cricketers, Mitch Santner, played splendidly. I mean, he was smacked on the helmet by one from Ben Stokes, but he also played, lots of exciting strokes as well, not least hitting the last ball of the day for 6. I mean, that's the sort of thing England do, isn't it, normally? Or the first ball of the day, or the first ball after lunch, or whatever, or every ball they try to hit for 6. It's the first ball, the last ball of the day for 6.
Actually, he did that in an IPL game when he came into bat.
Yeah.
I think it was Chennai. I think he was playing for Chennai Super Kings against the Rajasthan Royals at
Yes, he was.
Jaipur, and I was at the game, and it was a really exciting run chase, and somehow they managed to win, and Santner, I think, hit a 6 off the last ball to win the game straight over the side screen, a bit like today. I do like him as a cricketer because I think he's different. I think he bowls. He's a left-arm spinner, but he bowls in sort of slightly different ways. He sort of changes his action. He bowls quicker ones and slower ones, and he varies it, and he seems to get something out of a pitch which often doesn't offer anything. Of course, he took all those wickets against India as well. Suddenly never got 5 for in a Test match, and then he got 12 in the Test. So amazing cricketer, and he's just someone that you want to keep an eye on. He is quite a dynamic batsman, and he can give power at the end of the innings. So it was good to see that. Just a quick mention, by the way, I don't know how many of you have joined, but I hope those of you who have been enjoying our special series on the Ashes of 74-5, that Thompson and Lilly brutal series. We produced a couple of episodes so far of Headhunters, and they are on our sister site, patreon.com/theanalyst25. You could call it the Analyst Plus if you like. Extra content on there, including this special series of the 74-5 brutal Ashes when England got hammered by the pace bowling, and there were some terrifying moments in that series, and we cover that in this special series. If you go to patreon.com/theanalyst25, you'll pick that series up. You also get this podcast ad-free as well, so it's well worth having a look at that site, patreon.com/theanalyst25. So England, well, no wickets before lunch. I guess they would have probably been staring down the barrel actually when they went into lunch.
Well, 93 for no wicket after 28 overs. But as I said earlier, you felt there were wickets around the corner. You felt that you could kind of understand why Stokes did what he did, put New Zealand into bat. I mean, I think he said it was a bit of a toss-up. When they came to the ground, it was nice and clear, and then it clouded over, and he thought, yeah, let's go for it. And Tom Latham saying, well, I've seen greener pitches here. There was some grass covering in the pitch, which encourages a pace bowling attack, but they just couldn't get through. What I thought was interesting, when you think about it, is that England bowled pace throughout the day, which shows what they thought about the surface and what they could get out of the surface. No Bashir, but of course New Zealand made a change, and they brought in Santner, haven't they? So they brought in a spinner for a pace bowler. So they are. What are they thinking? That this pitch is going to spin, or I don't know, just wanted to approach in a different way. So they've got 3 pace bowlers for this surface, whereas England had 4. And you sort of saw the value of it. I mean, it was something that Clive Lloyd did. As a result, actually, when you think about it, go back to 74-5, it's something the theme we'll develop in our series, is that series changed, and what happened subsequently in the following winter changed the way the West Indies thought about it. They had balanced attacks, but in the end they thought, no, we just got these pace bowlers, just use them, just rotate them, 4 fast bowlers. And that's what England did today, but New Zealand have gone away from that model. They've had 4 pace bowlers in this series, and they've gone to the spinner. I think the only thing is the way England play, that are we going to get like late 4th day, 5th day, to see whether the ball, the pitch is going to wear, and there is going to be some spin. The one thing is in favour of Santner, he's not got a fantastic Test match record, is of course there is some bounce in the surface, but we don't know about whether there's any spin, bounce, whatever, because there was no spin today at all from England.
So just to have a look at the wickets quickly, I mean, Atkinson, I thought bowled pretty well, and he's not one who generally moves the ball away, but he managed to get one to move away from Will Young, and it was a good catch by Harry Brook at second slip to break that opening partnership. And then Tom Latham was a bit unlucky to get caught down the leg side. That when you get caught off the glove from a short ball, and the batsman sort of fending it off, and he's caught down the leg side, as Daryl Mitchell was in one of the earlier tests, that is a legitimate dismissal. But just a flick down the leg side, caught down the leg side of a sort of fairly lazy ball, I don't think that is so. That is genuinely a strangle, actually. And Latham a little bit unlucky there, and obviously disappointing. But you mentioned Kane Williamson getting out to Matt Potts. Pat Potts actually has taken Williamson a few times, hasn't he? I think he got him on his first test, actually.
Yes, he did.
His first test at Lord's, and he seems to have the wood on Williamson a bit. And it's one of those classic Williamson dismissals where, one of his hallmarks is playing the ball late, and that sort of incredibly angled bat that brings him a lot of runs through third man, and that beautiful soft hand defence that just stuns the ball dead. I tell you who also was incredibly good at that a long time back was Martin Crowe, who was his predecessor as New Zealand's finest ever batsman, and he was brilliant at doing that, just stunning the ball dead and taking a single actually off a decent ball. And Williamson's been very good at that, but of course the downside of that is occasionally you play it so late that the ball trickles back onto the stumps or towards the stumps, and then he attempted to try and kick it away and just helped it on its way onto the stump. So a disappointing dismissal. His average is 90 at Hamilton, so that was a result, getting him out for 44.
Certainly was, and you could see his reaction. I think he felt he was playing well. I mean, England did bowl quite well to him as well at times. They were going past his outside edge. The head rocking back, utter frustration at what he'd done, and New Zealand losing their fourth wicket. The third wicket before Williamson was Ravindra, who it was so nearly a no ball, but Ravindra gives you a chance, doesn't he? He's quite a flirty batter, and he takes it on, and he unfurled a few boundaries at the start of his innings. But England had two gullies for him, and he succumbed. It was actually it's quite tame, actually, I thought, from Ravindra. He just couldn't control the ball outside the off stump and just guided it into that sort of backward point gully region, and England's plan, pretty basic plan against him, really pretty obvious plan. Well, it was so obvious, there they were, positioned on the offside, worked. And so, yeah, England just beginning to work their way through the New Zealand batting. So Ravindra out before tea, Kane Williamson out after tea. So what was that, 185 for 4? And you thought, yeah, right, the game's right in the balance here. Who's going to take the initiative? And as it happened, it was England.
Yeah, because Mitchell played a loose shot, was caught in the covers. I find actually it's a shame, Daryl Mitchell, because I find he's a compelling cricketer. He's strong and powerful, and he's a very thoughtful guy as well. And he gets up for the fight. He's quite a feisty character, but he's a gentleman off the field. And I like watching him bat. He plays some amazing shots. I mean, he's played some incredible innings, but sometimes he just gets out in silly ways. And today, loose drive, fairly easy catch to cover. That was really tame. And then Glenn Phillips the same. I mean, another sort of waft outside off. Phillips is definitely a player who prefers the back foot. And you offer him up something a bit wide on the offside, he will eagerly try and lap it up, and he just poked it again straight to cover. I mean, those two dismissals were woeful, really. You set up a platform of 180 odd before. You should get 350, even 400 maybe from there with the strength they have down the order, and instead they frittered their wickets away rather.
Yeah, it was flirty batting, really. I mean, Mitchell had taken 20 balls to get off the mark. That was the other thing. So he'd been really careful to start with, and then hit a couple of boundaries to get himself going. It was a curious dismissal, just driving and Stokes diving away to his left to take the catch at extra cover, and that Phillips slicing drive to backward point. And then Blundell, he did it as well. Stretching for one outside the off stump, just reaching for it a bit, couldn't control it, hit it in the air, and the catch taken at cover. So suddenly New Zealand, who were in a very good position, were 231 for 7, but they got over 300 thanks to some hitting from Santner and a bit of swiping from Tim Southee. He did make it to his final Test match. I mean, he's rather laboured through the series. I mean, there's been a lot of comment about his position in the team, but he is a legend of New Zealand cricket, and so they've let him survive almost. And he hit a few sixes, didn't he? It was a bit of slogging, really. I mean, he does strike a clean ball, and then he whacked one right up in the air and was caught basically by the wickets at the non-striker's end. So, but bonus wicket for England at the end of the day's play. So they kind of managed to work their way through. And of course, one thing we haven't mentioned yet, Yoz, a remarkable T20 catch by Harry Brooks. So England going to leg theory. And we saw some of that brutal bowling in 74-5. And it was pretty ruthless from Ben Stokes. He was just banging everything into the tail. And you think back to cricket, back in the 70s, 60s, whatever, where you didn't really bounce the tail, did you? There was a kind of a gentleman's agreement, and that gradually got eroded. Helmets has obviously changed that completely now. And England was just smacking it into the surface. Henry hit Stokes for 1-6, and he went for another one, and Brook on the fine leg boundary. It's beautiful to watch, wasn't it? Balletic, knocking the ball up, going over the boundary, kind of tiptoeing over the boundary, stepping back in and taking the catch. A wonderful catch from Brook. And I thought he took a good low catch earlier, the first wicket, to get rid of Will Young. Not an easy catch low down at slip, so he caught well. There was one blemish from England today, Duckett at third slip, difficult low catch off Latham before Latham was dismissed, and not long before. That was the only blemish that I can remember from England today.
Yeah, the catching was pretty solid, and Harry Brook has made himself into a fabulous athlete, hasn't he? Because when he was, I remember we had him on our show actually about a year ago, and he talked about the fact that he wasn't a very good runner when he was 14. He was really quite sort of slightly flat-footed, and he couldn't really get much speed up, and he was a bit sort of clumsy. And he worked on it very hard at his school, Sedbergh School, to make himself into a reasonable athlete. And now he's a brilliant fielder. I mean, I barely remember him dropping a catch. He's taken some absolute stormers in various different positions as well. Sometimes at slip, sometimes backward point, sometimes on the boundary. He's taken some real stinkers actually, and he's an impressive performer in the outfield. And of course now he's gone to number one Test ranked batsman as well, hasn't he? He's gone ahead of Joe Root after those 200s in this series, and Joe Root saying he's going to be the greatest player that has ever lived. Very sporting declaration from Root. But
do you want that sort of pressure though? It's quite a mantle to carry, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know, but he's not. I don't think he's someone who worry about that too much, really. I think the nice thing about Harry Brook is he's quite he seems as if he's enjoying himself, doesn't he? Of course you enjoy it when it's going well, but he just seems to have a sort of joie de vivre about him, doesn't he? Which is a lovely thing to see, actually. Even when he plays and misses or something, he sort of chuckles away and carries on. So I just love his spirit, and he doesn't.
Let's talk about Ben Stokes, Yoz. Not for the first time, 23 overs in the day's play. I mean, that is a considerable shift, isn't it? At one point he bowled 8 overs on the reel when he first came on. He came on after 12 overs today, 43 for no wicket. He obviously had his injury problems. In Pakistan he didn't bowl that much, and you just wonder. And he also pulled up, didn't he, earlier in the series with a back injury, and you thought, that doesn't look good. The relationship between the back and the hamstring. But to come out and bowl 23 overs today, I mean, that's actually astonishing. I mean, if you'd said that to me at the start of the day's play, I don't think I would have believed it.
No, I totally agree. It's funny because I saw him last summer actually in the nets at Lord's, and I just said to him, "You're indestructible," and he laughed. But he is, isn't he? Because you think back to the South Africa series a year and a half ago when he was not able to bowl. I remember seeing him at the Oval, and I said he'd been bowling off breaks in the nets, and I said to him in the press conference after the game, "You thinking about coming back as a spinner and maybe bowl spin in India?" And he was like, "Well, I've been working with Jeetan Patel on my off breaks," because he was really struggling to bowl anything more than that. And I thought, well, actually, I could see that. I could see him coming back as an off spinner, sort of fast, bowling fast off breaks, a bit like Tony Greig, actually, who, of course, featured heavily or prominently in that 74-5 series in Australia. But no, he's defied everyone's expectations, and suddenly, even after pulling up early in this series, and you think worrying about his all-round role, I mean, today he was absolutely back to his best. He was running in, bowling at 84 miles an hour, bowling short. Looked absolutely fine, looked really fluent, and there was that bounce back in his run-up, and sort of his expectation and optimism with the ball, which I guess is fairly consistent. But yeah, it just looked great, and it just added that extra ingredient. So it was good to see.
Yeah, vital ingredient just to keep that four-man attack going. And I mean, the figures don't look great, do they? 23 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 86. A lot of that. I mean, he actually bowled very tightly for a long time and threateningly as well. And he was causing left-handers some problems. You know, with that one sort of, you bowl with the angle round the wicket, angles in, sort of leaves the left-hander. Some of those runs were at the end of the day's play when he was banging it in and they were taking him on and succeeding, and he did get the wicket of Henry with that fine catch by Brooke on the boundary. But it feels like kind of a plus for England today that he was able to come through that and have the confidence in his body to do that and to bowl those overs. They bowled more overs than anyone else. So Potts 21, Atkinson 19, and Carse 19, and a solid all-round a day from England's pace bowlers. I don't think they were perfect today. I mean, is there ever a perfect day? Probably Carse bowled a few too many four balls. I thought Atkinson was excellent, actually quite forensic. Not particularly quick. I was looking at his speeds. We've talked about this before. About 128, 130, something like that.
That's about 80 odd miles
kilometres per hour. Yeah. Potts struggled occasionally first over coming back. He bowled one over that was really tame. It was hit for a few fours at first over of a spell, but then of course he hasn't had much bowling, but he persevered and picked up 3 wickets. So I mean, all in all, a curious up and down day. 100 stand. You think, well, they're going to get 350 for 5 or something, or 300 for 4 at the end of the day's play, but 315 for 9. But then perhaps you just get a bit greedy towards the end. You think, well, can you bowl them out for 260? And they've still got 1 wicket left. It's 315 for 9. But probably if you'd offered England 315 for 9 at the start of the day's play, that they would have taken it. They certainly would have taken it at lunchtime, wouldn't they? When New Zealand were 93 for no wicket, and I'm sure they would have taken it at tea as well, when they were 172 for 3.
And it was a valuable workout for those bowlers because, of course, the next time they bowl with a Kookaburra ball will be in the Ashes in a year's time. So, I mean, unless they play a bit of county cricket, obviously next summer, there's a couple of rounds of Championship cricket in the middle of the summer next year, using the Kookaburra ball for the same purposes as it was introduced last summer, and they played some matches early in the season with Kookaburra last year, but it's mid-season next year. So maybe a couple of these guys, Carse or Atkinson, might get a chance, but it is the last time they'll be bowling with a Kookaburra ball in international cricket before, well, red Kookaburra anyway, because of course they use the white Kookaburra in ODIs, but the red Kookaburra is only used really in New Zealand and Australia, so it's a chance for them to explore that ability again in the second innings, and after that Ashes in 12 months' time. And just a word, I suppose, about Brisbane. A bit of an anticlimax, actually, at the Gabba, with Australia and India 1-1, and all eyes on the Gabbatoir to see if New Zealand, to see if India could pull off another extraordinary win there, like the one they did 4 years ago. And no play, barely any play, 28 for none, Australia. So the storms around the Gabba are actually going to carry on for the next few days. So maybe that draw that I suggested rather madly might occur in this series might prevail in this match.
Yeah, well, the weather's always the big factor in the draw, isn't it? If there's a significant amount of play these days, then the draw seems so rare, don't they? But apparently the forecast for the next few days is a bit iffy, so it may well be that the game does head for a draw. I suppose it depends when it rains in the rest of the match, doesn't it? If you can get some dry days towards the back end, then you might better force something, especially if there's something in the pitch. India putting Australia into bat. I can't see the Hamilton Test match ending in a draw somehow, the way England play. I mean, I think coming out tomorrow on that surface, when England do get their chance to bat, I can see them playing lots of shots. Of course they're going to play lots of shots because they always play lots of shots, but it feels like that sort of surface, and you could see England succumbing in the same way that New Zealand have succumbed today. So I don't think all is lost for New Zealand yet, but they probably haven't quite made the most of it, and England will feel they've had the better of the first day. But I don't think it's a done deal yet. and we'll wait to see how England approach it and whether they get away with it when they play their many attacking shots.
It must be a wonderful time to be an England cricketer at the moment. Actually, you go to New Zealand and play some engaging attacking cricket, and then the match finishes in 2.5, 3 days, and then they've got 3 or 4 days to gallivant around New Zealand. And I'm so glad that they do that, because in past years touring teams have tended to sort of stay in the hotel and not really do much, and now this England team are definitely on the exploring side. So they've been down, I think they did a helicopter ride over the Marlborough Sounds and some golf around some of the lakes, and I mean, it's a stunning country, isn't it? It's a wonderful place to tour if you have the chance to explore it and get around. I mean, I've done whale watching and mountaineering and all sorts. I mean, it's brilliant. Go around volcanoes. It's an absolutely fantastic country, isn't it?
It's an extraordinary place. Yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking. There's barely any of it that's ugly.
Yeah.
Some places it doesn't look particularly good or whatever, but New Zealand it's extraordinarily beautiful place to visit. So England sightseeing, was it taken in, Yoz? All those things you're talking about, the first hole, the second hole, the third hole, the fourth hole, the fifth hole, the sixth hole.
One or two of them have, yeah. But I mean, actually, you do get some great views at some of those golf courses. There's one, my favourite one is there's a beautiful golf course up north of Auckland, actually, where and I love the way that they started the trend for playing golf in a pair of shorts and no socks years and years ago, when you had to kind of turn up in at English golf courses all correctly dressed, and if you wore the wrong shirt or a collarless shirt, or the socks weren't long enough or something, they threw you off. But in New Zealand you could turn up and play at anything. And there's one golf course up north from Auckland where there's a par 3 which goes straight to the Tasman Ocean, straight at the ocean. And if the wind is blowing from the east, it's about a 9-iron. And if the wind is blowing from the west off the sea, you can't even get on the green with a 3-wood. So it's just, you're right up high and across all the dunes, and there's extraordinary views everywhere. And actually, the Marlborough Sounds are a really beautiful spot. I don't think you've ever been there, but England did a helicopter ride around there. I mean, it is actually absolutely beautiful. So it makes you kind of gives you such a spirit, I think, playing cricket in New Zealand, because there's more to see than just a cricket ground, and that I think that liberates your spirit, actually.
Yeah, I think they feel that greater sense of freedom as well. I mean, Hamilton is not the most picturesque city. You talk about most places in New Zealand are captivating. Hamilton as a town, I mean, it's not unpleasant by any means, but it does have one really significant feature, was this extraordinary, the mighty Waikato River that runs through it, and that is fantastic. Actually, you can stand on a bridge and watch it roaring past, and there are people canoeing down the river, and there's a big lake there in Hamilton as well. But actually, the city/town of Hamilton is quite a sort of rudimentary town, isn't it? And probably the crowds, well, they're good today, but not the biggest crowds as well, and they might tail off as the game goes on. Those grassy banks might empty, but if you do turn up, I think it promises to be a really entertaining rest of the game. The surface and the way that clearly that England are going to approach it, and actually the way New Zealand approached it today, certainly in that last part of the day's play where Mitch Santner got going, and so did Tim Southee as well. So yeah, lots in store in sleepy Hamilton in the next few days.
I wonder if one of the last moments will be Tim Southee getting his 100th six, because he's got to 98 now in Test cricket. He hit 3 today, so impressive. He's I think he's 6th on the list of 6 hitters in Test cricket, and only a few of them have got past that 100. So 2 to go for him, and a lovely guard of honour for him as well, walking out in his last Test match provided by England. So lots of kind of nice moments in today's play, but it'll be fascinating to see how England carry on. England respond to New Zealand's score of 315 for 9, and will be